Hello, everyone. A very warm welcome to another exciting episode of Psychology Talks. And today we're going to discuss one of my most favorite topics, which is very close to my heart. And I've been looking for this episode for so long because in this episode we're going to discuss about the realms of dream, the world of dreams. We'll discuss that how these dreams can impact our waking life, how our subconscious mind gives us messages about our waking life. So in this episode, we're gonna uncover the mysteries of the world of dreams, which we delve into every night. But most of the time, people do not remember or do not give importance to all these dreams. But every night, our inner wisdom or our soul gives us message to maybe improve ourselves or to improve the people around us. And that's why I have invited one of the most uh, amazing person who is the authority on this subject matter. His name is Dr. Antonio Zadra, and he is an expert in the dream science. He is a prominent authority in the field, and he's done some groundbreaking research as the head of the largest dream lab in Canada. His role is a professor in the Department of Psychology at the Université de Montréal, coupled with his extensive research at the Center of Advanced Research in Sleep Medicine. He has significantly contributed to our understanding of intricate working of dream mind, and he is a distinguished author of this book, if you can see, When Brains Dream. And in this book he has given a detailed information and knowledge about how and why our mind dreams and what we can have the understanding from all these dreams. So let's welcome Dr. Antonio. Hello, Dr. Antonio. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's an honor to have you with us, and our audience, like, and me also, eager to listen more on this topic from you because you have done a lot of research on that, and we're gonna discuss about it. So I've given a little bit of introduction about you, that you have written the book and you have done extensive work in this field. But let our audience know that why and how you came into this field and what struggles you faced.
Sure. So,
Yeah.
how I came to this field is actually sort of an unusual story, but
Mm-hmm.
basically, I decided to at least try to become a dream sleep researcher because of a dream I had when I was in college. So, at the time, I have an older brother. He was in medical school. My default plan growing up was to also go in medical school. And when I was in college, I had this very, very long, hyper vivid lucid dream, a dream in which we become aware that we're dreaming. Now, I had had them before as a younger child and as an adolescent, but never one like this one where I was stabbed. I had physical
Oh.
pain. I could feel the warmth of my blood. I met fascinating dream characters, including one who tried to convince me that the whole experience wasn't a dream.
Mm-hmm.
And throughout all of this, I knew that my physical body was in my bed sleeping. And so I was like, how can I be in this hyper realistic virtual world? And at one point, I even tried yelling and I could hear my booming voice, but I knew that I was quiet in my bed. Anyways, that first dream is the first dream that I ever wrote down, and it um, uh, led me to try to start reading more about sleep and dreams.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually took a year off from school to think about all
Okay.
of this. And finally, I decided, okay, we'll try to make this work. And luckily for me, things worked out. But of course, your prospects for work in life are quite different if you're going to medical school versus if you're going to do something called dream science.
Yeah.
Especially back at the time where there were very few people interested, at least in academia, interested in dreams or doing dream research, very little opportunity for funds or even jobs, what have you. But like I said, in the end, things worked out and I have no regrets. I think you are.
So oh, sorry. No, I was muted, but now I'm not. So yeah, you shared that there was one dream and which was recurrent, which actually made you or forced you to be in this field. So maybe you can share, because that was when actually I saw your speech on in the TED Talks and on the YouTube. That actually fascinated me, because I think there are a lot of people who may have that kind of dream, and they may be questioning that how they can actually make sense to their waking life. Maybe you can share a little bit more about that dream.
Sure. So the dream
Yeah.
started off where I am in college and
Yeah.
I am accused of a crime that I didn't commit. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
so, um, and so then I'm convicted and sent to jail, and the jail is my college actually.
Okay.
But it's all dark with these underground passages. And
Mm.
while I'm in the jail, I meet a few people that I knew during when I was in elementary school, and they were also in
Mhm.
jail. And they say, "Stay close to us; we'll protect you because it's very dangerous in here." But the main character who offered to protect me, that I knew from my hometown, he's the one who ends up stabbing me
Oh my.
with a knife, stabs me in the abdomen. And like I said earlier, the pain was excruciating. I could feel the warmth of my
Mhm.
blood and its thickness as it was pooling out of my stomach. And there's also a power failure that
Oh.
happens, and then everyone is trying to escape the prison and people are running down these hallways, and everyone is turning left down the hallway when we get to a dead end, except the person in front of me goes right. And I figure either he's an idiot or he knows what he's doing because everyone else is going the other way. Anyways, so I follow him, and he opens this door and we're all in this big green yard with grass, but there's these uh, light structures like you see in outdoor soccer fields, arenas, these very high structures with all these lights on it. And on these lights are sharpshooters, and they
Okay.
start shooting bullets at us.
Oh.
And the guy running in front of me gets riddled with bullets and dies
Okay.
before my eyes. And I keep running and I see the bullets landing in the grass all around me, but I'm not hit. And
Mm-hmm.
as I approach the end of the yard, there's this huge fence with barbed wires at the top. And I keep telling myself, I need to clear the fence. I need to clear the fence. But the fence is like, maybe 8, 10 meters high. But I jump and I'm able to jump right over the whole fence. And on the other side, I land in a big pile of snow. And it's
Oh.
when I landed in the snow that I went, something is not right. And when I turn around, I see the yard and I still see grass. There's no more sharpshooters or commotion. I touch my abdomen. My injury has healed, but it still hurts.
Mm-hmm.
And then I put my hand in the snow and I can feel the coldness of the snow. And I'm going, how can this be so realistic when I'm still probably in my bed? And I decided to make a snowball and to throw it to the first person I see, which was this rather large man walking nearby. And I throw the snowball, and he got very angry at me and threatened to beat me up.
Oh.
And so I went, I better be dreaming because maybe then I wasn't quite. Anyways, and then later I started walking in this dream, and I meet a few characters, and there's one where I start talking with, and I
Mm-hmm.
tell him, none of this is real. I'm actually in my bed sleeping. and all of this is a dream. And he just laughed, but with a very insightful, deep look in his eye. And that's what really stunned me. There was like a realness behind his eyes. And he said, look, I also sleep. I also dream. I'm not telling you that you're not real. And he goes, this is a real world.
Mm-hmm.
And so this was really, and then I woke up shortly afterwards. And this
Okay.
character here became a recurrent character in my dreams
Mm-hmm.
for several decades. So
Oh,
I would dream on, I might go 6 months, a year without dreaming about him, and then maybe have two dreams of him in the same week. And he
okay.
became almost like a dear friend, if we want, in my dreams. Unfortunately, I haven't dreamt about him now for many, many years.
Okay.
And it actually saddens me because
Oh,
I really enjoyed our conversations in our dreams. And in our dreams, he's able to well remember our previous dreams we've had together, and at times
wow.
even better than I do in the dream. I remember them well once I wake up, but not necessarily in the dream. Anyway, so that
Okay.
all got me interested in dreams, how the brains create these virtual worlds, how they create dream characters, um, why how dreams unfold are kept from the dream characters. Because even in a
Yeah.
lucid dream, you can ask a character a question, but
Yeah.
you don't know how they're going to respond, what their
Mm-hmm.
answer is going to be. Uh, but to the extent that your mind is creating this character, your mind knows it. And so
Yeah.
I like to say you're not the producer director of the dream. Your mind is, and
Yeah.
you have only access to a very small part of the script. Anyway, so
Yeah.
these are the questions that as
Yeah.
a 17, 18-year-old got me
Okay.
really interested.
Mhm.
And at the
So,
time, some of the first studies coming out of Stanford University on a study of lucid dreaming in the sleep laboratory. And so that
mhm.
allowed me to realize, okay, there's actually a few people doing actual work in sleep labs
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
dreams. And so it's possible.
Yeah. So, what actually I would say that what meaning you drew from that dream, that how it impacted your life, or maybe even when you were having the conversation with that character, does it have any relevance with the waking life, or it was just the fantasies, or
Well, I think that, most dreams, or at least a good proportion of dreams that we recall, um, are, I believe, embodiments of ongoing concerns,
Mhm.
preoccupations that we have, often in more metaphorical terms, which is just like our waking language is filled with
Yeah,
metaphors and simile just when we speak.
yeah,
In this particular dream, I don't, I never really, I don't think it was so much the meaning as the experience itself. And
okay,
so the experience itself was eye-opening about how can the brain go about creating these worlds, and why
yeah,
do they do it, and why do most people never remember any of their dreams, even high
yeah,
dream recallers? They might remember a handful of dreams a week, or maybe one or two in the morning, but we spend at least an hour and a half, 2.5 hours every night immersed in the stage of sleep known as REM sleep, where most vivid
mm,
dreaming takes place, of which we recall virtually nothing. So
yeah,
these are more, the experience was less about the meaning, what does it mean, and more of how does the brain go about creating this and why.
yeah. I mean, that's the major question, that, like, when our mind creates such fascinating stories with so much reality in it. So, what is the meaning of it? I mean, like, every day we go into these realms of dream and we experience the different kind of world, but how it is affecting our waking life, does it have any meaning, or is just the random uh, visions or random stories, or thoughts create these kind of stories in our mind?
Well, I think there's really two questions in what you asked, because
Okay.
I think what you're really asking is, does do any of these experiences, do dreams have a function? And
Yeah.
I think do they have meaning is something else. Do they have meaning is of the dreams we remember, is there a way, do they mean something? Are they
Yeah.
metaphorical? How do we untangle? And
Hmm.
that's quite different from do they have a function?
Okay.
It's like the heart. You have your heart and it makes a sound because it's a
Hmm.
muscle and it pumps blood. But the
Yeah.
function of the heart is not to make a sound; it's to pump
Yeah.
blood, right?
Yeah.
But the sound, if you're a medical doctor, a cardiologist, you can put a stethoscope and listen to the heart and infer things about the person's health. So the meaning of the heartbeat is, well, I think you have an arrhythmia, I think you have this, but it has nothing to do with the function of the heart. I view dreams the same way. Dreams
Hmm.
execute their function while they are occurring. Whether or not we remember them, what we do with the dreams we remember for personal insight, for self discovery, for creativity, those are things that it's a bit like using the heartbeat. Those
Yeah.
are meanings, those are uses, but they're not necessarily the function. So to come back to, do dreams have a function? I definitely think so.
Hmm.
We know that REM sleep plays a very important role in emotional regulation.
Okay.
We think that dreams might tap into this and help emotional regulation, mostly by taking emotionally vivid experiences from our recent days and our distant past and exploring weak associations to them, which is why dreams are particularly often unusual, bizarre. So we dream of being back in high school, but the building is different. We see
Yeah.
a character that we remember, but the voice is off. Um, so all of these distortions and bizarreness helps untangle some negative emotions that we have from the events in which they occur. And it's basically, I believe, I can sum it up this way. I think what our minds do when we dream is they look at what have we experienced in the last 24, 48 hours, last week, that is emotionally salient or that bother us or that's on our minds. How does it relate to things that I've experienced in the past? And so, but it examines this not like in a logical way, in
Yeah.
ways that we often do it while awake. And the neurochemistry of the brain when we are dreaming is very different from wakefulness.
Yeah.
It allows it to explore it in very loosely associated ways. And so I believe it's like opening drawers from our past. Like if you had a big
Yeah.
and looking, does it fit here? Does it fit here? And so it's trying to make sense of these events by looking to what else can we connect them. And why does it do that? To better prepare us for the future. And I think
Mhm.
that all of this takes place while the dream is unfolding, regardless if you remember your dreams or not. So many people never remember their dreams. I remember
Yeah.
a dream a month.
Yeah.
So if you have to remember your dreams for them to have a function, then it's probably the most wasteful process we
Okay.
ever encountered.
Hmm.
And to have them interpreted even more wasteful because
Okay.
many people go through their entire lives without having a single one of their dreams interpreted. So for them,
Yeah.
dreams would have no function.
Yeah.
And then even when we talk about dream interpretation, there's over 2 dozen contemporary methods of working with dreams. So with whom, what dream, what method, to what conclusions. So I think, like I said, these are all uses we can make of our dreams, and they can certainly be beneficial for self-discovery, for creativity. There's dream sharing evidence that even that can foster empathy between people. So there's lots of wonderful things, but the evolutionary or biological function of dreams, which I think is very important, that probably takes place while the dream is happening,
Yeah.
regardless of whether we remember it or not.
Yeah. Amazing. I mean, these are very fascinating, like information about dreams, that how dreams and waking life differ, and how it can impact our our waking life. But it actually also gives me another question. Actually, the question which is could sound like more philosophical, or and but it was actually asked by my son, who was 8 year old, and once he asked, and because I actually had quite a bit of discussion with my kids, so he asked me one day that how do we know that this current waking life is not a dream and the dream is not the reality? As you mentioned, that there are like a very distinct, or there's a difference in the neural activities, the mind are the act or behave in a very different way. So like, if I reframe my question, that what if that it's we're when we're experiencing in a dream is not another kind of reality, or maybe we are visiting something, or maybe it's another dimension. So do you have any
Well,
answer to this?
it's a very interesting and a long-standing, as you say, almost philosophical question I've
Yeah,
played with, and artists have played with in their artwork, in
yeah,
movies,
yeah,
even movies like The Matrix or
yeah,
Inception can all play around with these basic ideas. Um, so there's several things going on here. For one, dreams are very different from reality in that they are highly unstable. That is,
mhm,
dreams, things shift very quickly. You dream that you're in a park, and next thing you know, you're back home.
yeah,
So one way dreams differ, even in a lucid dream, for instance, if you say, "Okay, here I am." At work, in the dream, if you ask yourself, okay, how did I get here?
yeah,
You probably won't remember. And the reason you don't remember is that you didn't wake up in your dream, get out of bed, have a shower, had
yeah,
breakfast, got into your car, took a bus.
yeah,
You just show up in your thing. And then so it's unstable. We also know that the world, the dream world, is very unstable. So if you stare at a point in your dream, often the dream itself will start dissolving. So the world itself is not very stable. We also know through laboratory studies that you can manipulate this dream world. So
mhm,
if you play certain sounds or give tactile stimuli to
yeah,
someone when they
yeah,
are in REM sleep, you can alter or change the dream world in which they're in. And
yeah,
so this argues against, this has a certain
yeah,
independent reality because you can, A, it's very unstable and shifts, but B, you can manipulate it quite readily,
yeah,
even in the laboratory.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
we also know that people have certain kinds of brain lesions. Can
mhm,
either you can change the kinds of dream experiences they have will alter. So they might start having many kinds of nightmares.
yeah,
Or they might start confusing dreams with reality because of certain damages in parts of their brain. So we know that alterations in brain chemistry and anatomy can alter dream experiences.
yeah,
So I think still the question is a fascinating one,
yeah,
but that a lot of modern discoveries and so on tell us this is ultimately a creation of our minds, of our brains, a bit like our imaginations are, or just like our experiences that we can have when we take certain kinds of substances that alter our perceptions. So things like psilocybin or LSD, and there's all class of substances that alter our waking perceptions and how we perceive reality.
yeah.
Um, but it's often due because of what's going on within our system.
Yeah, yeah. I think, yeah, that's a very valid point, that those realities are unstable and can be manipulated. So, as you mentioned, that when we can manipulate the dream escape. So I was also reading your article about that, how these companies, the marketing people, are actually manipulating these dreams, and the kind of like dream hacking. So what's your point of view on that? Or maybe you can just explain that what exactly dream hacking is.
Okay. So there is a new or relatively new field of research within sleep and dreams known as dream engineering.
Yeah.
And what dream engineering essentially tries to do is to use different forms of technology. So it can
Mhm.
be sleep wearables, things people
Yeah.
wear, external stimuli, tactile, visual. Um, and people use these to, for instance, try to induce lucid dreams. They might try to use it to treat nightmares. There's different. So the ideas behind it is quite sound. It's also used to study dreams much more
Mhm.
finely in laboratory settings, and it can also be used for creativity. So people are exploring all of this. And when I say
Mhm.
creativity, for instance, when people fall asleep, um, many people will experience these different images and thoughts as they
Mhm.
fall asleep. It can be
Yeah.
geometric, it can be, but the further along while you fall asleep you go, the more creative these things become. And actually, many famous discoveries made in
Yeah.
sciences and arts, ideas, music, song, poetry, come from this phase of sleep known as hypnagogic states.
Yeah.
And so one example of this dream engineering is this something you can wear on your head or on your fingers that monitors as you fall asleep. And as you're falling asleep, will give you verbal cues. So, instance,
Okay.
think about a tree. Think about that's the simplest example.
Mhm.
And when people are falling asleep, they might see just an image of a tree. But if you let them fall asleep a little bit more and do that, then they'll see a forest. If you let
Okay.
them even further,
Mhm.
then they're not just seeing things, they're underground, they're exploring roots, they're
Okay.
hearing the trees communicate with each other.
Wow.
It's really quite fantastic. But usually
Yeah.
we forget all of this because
Yeah.
we just drift off to sleep. And so
Yeah.
these tools then wake you up further down.
Okay.
You're like going down a rabbit hole, but then it brings you back up, and then you
Yeah.
remember these things. So that's a tool, for instance, that can be used for creativity to start. And you
Mhm.
can program. I gave you the line, think of a
Mhm.
tree, because it was one of the first ones used, but it could be about, a problem you're faced with or a solution you're looking at for some challenge. So this is the field, anyways, that
Okay.
is being used. Now, marketing companies also took note of this. And
Yeah.
so their interest is, well, can we provide some kind of external stimuli when either people are falling asleep, either when they are asleep, to place products or to change
Yeah.
people's behaviors? And so this to many scientists, and so we wrote a letter, for instance,
Mhm.
outlining these concerns that were signed by over 40 different sleep scientists across the world,
Mhm.
saying this may work, this may not work, but we shouldn't wait to find out. We should have laws
Okay.
in place beforehand.
Mhm.
Because look, we're bombarded with advertisements while we are awake on television,
Yeah.
on social media, and everywhere, radio, and so on. Uh, Sleep should be sacred. Sleep
Yes.
should be, I shouldn't in 10 years' time saying, Ambreen, you know, pay me $10 a month and I will guarantee you, ad-free dreams, right? So
Yeah.
the idea,
Yeah.
so there's that, but also um, because our brains are wired very differently when we sleep, the impact of these technologies, these advertisements, are probably much stronger or different than in wakefulness. And so already 2 years ago at this advertisement conference that's held every year, this one was in
Mhm.
New York, over 400 companies there. Over 70% say they have plans in the works to develop or investigate ways of fostering advertisement or influencing people's consumer behavior through their sleep and dreams. So
Yeah.
they're going to be doing that. And if researchers with very limited means can do it, companies with
Yeah.
highly unlimited means. And if you think about how much advertisers are willing to pay for 30 seconds of ads on TV or
Yeah.
in the Super Bowl, how much are you willing to pay if you can access, 6, 7 hours of people's minds every single night
Yeah.
of their lives?
Yeah.
Probably a lot.
Yeah.
And
Ab-
just to give you an example of how powerful this could be, I'll give you two examples. In one study, people were asked, do you prefer two kinds of candies, one called
Yeah.
M&M, one are called
Yeah.
Skittles? Which
Yeah.
one do you prefer? So let's say people said M&Ms. Fine, they
Yeah.
go to bed. While they are in bed in a particular stage of sleep, they presented them just with a word that just said Skittles.
Yeah.
Skittles. That's all. Very simple.
Yeah.
But a significant proportion of them, when they woke up, if you ask them, do you prefer M&Ms or Skittles? They go, you know what? I think I'd like to give Skittles a try.
Yeah.
Change without
That's,
knowing. But an
yeah.
even more salient example is a study whereby people who smoke cigarettes were brought into a lab. So these are all smokers. And they were just told, while you are asleep, we might present you with different smells. We're interested in seeing how smells influence sleep. Or you might have nothing. And that's all really they were told. But while they were sleeping, they were exposed to smell of either rotten fish or rotten eggs that were combined with the smell of cigarettes.
Oh.
And this was just for a few seconds.
Mm-hmm.
That was it. And when people woke up in the morning, they said, do you remember any smells? Most of them said no. They thought they were in the control group. And as part of the study, they had to keep these journals at home about all kinds of behaviors, including how
Yeah.
often they smoked before and
Okay.
after.
Mm-hmm.
When people left the lab, their consumption of cigarettes went down in some cases by 70%.
Wow.
So this was just a few seconds of which they
Yeah.
have no memory of. And
Yeah.
they can't explain why I just don't feel like smoking as much.
Mm-hmm.
But it's even more dramatic than that, because if you do this pairing of cigarette smell and rotten egg smell when people
Yeah.
are awake, it has
Yeah.
no effect on their behavior,
Yeah.
right? So there's something unique about sleep and how
Yeah.
sleep takes these stimuli and works them.
Mm-hmm.
So, um, so our concern is that we're only starting to discover how powerful our mind is during
Yeah.
sleep, how it reorganizes our thoughts, our preferences, how it regulates, again, emotions, um, and that exposing ourselves to advertisement or manipulations by governments, and here we're talking about products, but it could be
Yeah.
political, it could be all kinds of
Absolutely.
things down the road.
Yeah. Yeah.
And again, our worry is we don't have really solid proof that this would really work at large scale, but we don't want to wait to
Yeah.
find out. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's interesting, fascinating, but at the same time, it's unethical, to be honest. Like manipulating others' dream by just selling some products, or is
Right.
definitely, yeah,
Yeah. But it's for some companies, they don't view it as unethical because, like in some studies they did, or some things, they asked people, are you willing to have us, give you these stimuli before you go to sleep, and we'll give you $20 or we'll give you 20% off our products? And people say, sure. But our worry there too is you have no idea what you're consenting to, because
yeah,
we have no idea how this will influence the brain, how it influences your mind,
yeah,
and that's why I like to give the cigarette odor study,
yeah,
because you change behavior and people don't even know why they're changing their
absolutely,
behavior. And
absolutely,
again, you do that when people are awake and it has no effect. So sleep is a very special state, and has many functions,
hmm,
in addition to whatever dreams do, and we think that should be off limits. And our concern is that, a bit like with uh, how personal data of people from their phones and other devices was used without them knowing it and sold. People were a bit up in arms after the fact. Oh, we didn't know this, we didn't know that, and now people are passing laws, governments to try to restrict all of this, but it's a lot of it is after the fact. And here, many people sleep with modern devices in their bedrooms,
Yeah.
Google or Alexa or whatever. Some people allow their phones or other devices to monitor their sleep, like all the sounds,
Yeah.
and sometimes and that can be useful. For
Absolutely.
instance, to find out, do you snore? How often do you snore, and so on.
Yeah.
But you're allowing, companies to monitor
Yeah.
activity visually through sounds, whatever, throughout your sleep. People who sleep with sleep trackers are also monitoring
Yeah.
your heart rate, your respiration
Yeah.
rate, and they can put all of this together, but not just for you, for hundreds of thousands of people. And then you
Yeah.
throw in some AI,
Mhm.
and then you probably figure out ways of
Yeah.
making that. And all you have to offer people is like, look, we'll offer you 20% off on this if you let us do this. And people go, sure.
Yeah.
But again, you're not really are aware of what you're agreeing to.
Yeah. I mean,
So
that's
concerned.
scary also that how much we are at the risk of sharing all these data about our personal lives and how it's going to impact us. So I mean, with the advent of technology, the way it's been rapidly changing, I mean, it's quite scary, to be honest, that that where are we heading, and what's impact it gonna have on the human conscious level, and just for the sake of some, maybe like it's not as you mentioned that like companies who may have the intentions to sell products, but at the moment they don't know that how it's gonna impact their subconscious mind. Just remembering having a skittle might have a completely different impact in their lives. I mean, it's not only this, because how their brain interprets having a skittle is another completely different story that only that person knows. So
Absolutely.
yeah, it's
But
very
but like
scary.
I said, governments here, we're talking about candy, but it can be politics. You could do it with
Yes.
listeners.
Yeah.
You could do it with, your opponents. Anyways, it's
Oh,
down the road. It's not difficult to imagine these
yeah.
scenarios that often have played out in different films and science
Yeah,
fiction, and
absolutely.
but those technologies are becoming more readily available. And like I said, we don't know if it'll work, not work, large scale.
Yeah.
But once we have the answer, it'll be too late.
I understand. So, I mean, what steps do you recommend to, I mean, at least maybe we can raise some voice against it, or you think that it's not going to work anyways?
No, if we were sure none of this would work, we wouldn't have written letters and petitioned governments um, and again, we think that sleep and dreams are, for lack of a better word, they're sacred. They should be
Yeah,
hands off. They should be. It's
absolutely.
the last refuge our minds have
Yes,
of cutting off, and we think that this cutting off sleep, and we know, is very important. It's important for our mental well-being.
absolutely.
It's important for our physical well-being, for hormonal regulation, for immune system
Yeah,
functioning, for memory consolidation. And we think that dreams probably have important biological functions too, and that yeah, they should be off limits.
yeah,
But we will see. But
yeah,
already being able to discuss it and making people aware of these potential dangers. And there was
yeah,
people saying, when the first smartphones were coming out and games, going, look, this might be bad. This might be
yeah.
addictive.
That's
People soon will be unable to not look at their phone. The addictive properties, especially with children. A lot of people were mentioning, look, this is potentially not good for society or for the next generation. It might
yeah,
impact people's ability to concentrate and pay attention, and social relations, because people will be interacting virtually and not in person.
yeah,
Uh, so these things were being mentioned, but everything still happened. So we'll see.
Yeah, I think it's time will tell that how these researches or how these experiments and where it will lead us to. So anyways, I know this topic is so fascinating that I can actually go on and on for hours, but unfortunately the time of our show is nearing end. So what one advice would you give to our audience to maybe use sleep and dream effectively?
Well, want to encourage everyone to try to get um, as good quality sleep as they have. So sleep is not a waste of time. Sleep is very precious, very useful. Again, related to longevity, to our mental, physical health. So sleep is important. So
Yeah.
don't cut on your sleep. Try to keep regular sleep hours. And the most important isn't always going to bed at the same time. It's trying to wake up at the same time.
Okay.
Um, and when you wake up, try to expose yourself to natural light. So if
Mhm.
there's sun outside, open your windows. Same thing when you're traveling. These are all things that are good for your sleep. Now, for dreams, I think that if people are interested in working with their dreams, using their dreams, I think the best tool is to keep a dream diary because
Yeah.
our memories for dreams are very fragile. And even if you wake up, you remember one, unless you write it down or dictate it on a smartphone, the memory will disappear.
Yeah.
So for people who rarely remember their dreams or they want to remember more, there's different things you can do. First is when you wake up, give yourself time to remember your dreams. Don't
Mhm.
open your eyes, close the alarm, whatever, because then whatever was there will fade away.
Mhm.
So if you wake up with an alarm, close it, and then lie still in bed for 10, 15, 20 seconds. See if any images come back. If nothing comes back, try gradually changing position. If you woke up on your back, turn to your side, see if anything comes back. And then anything that you remember, even if it's a fragment, a little image, a feeling, start writing them down. Start keeping a dream diary or dictating them in a phone. Um, when you go to bed at night, you can use different things. So you can use auto suggestion. Tomorrow I will remember my dreams. Um, you can try to fall asleep with the intention of solving a problem. This is a technique we didn't have time much to talk about, but called dream incubation, which has a
Yeah.
very long history of literally
Yeah.
thousands of years. That,
Absolutely.
that also has been studied in the lab and so on, but it has a very long, rich history,
Yeah.
and for good reason because it can be very helpful as a tool.
Yeah.
But the idea is to
Amazing.
keep track of dreams, of your dreams, keep a dream diary, and many people like to focus on a single dream. What does this dream mean?
Yeah.
But there's another way of examining it, and which is to look at a series of your dreams. Look at 10,
Yeah.
15, 20 dreams. Who are the characters that you dream about most often? What kind of social interactions do you have with them? Are they
Mhm.
friendly? Are they aggressive? Where do your dreams take place? Is it places that
Mhm.
are known, unknown, from your recent life, from your distant life?
Yeah.
So these patterns, for me, are just as interesting, and we can learn as much, if not even more, than looking at individual dreams. And one doesn't preclude the other, but having a long series of dreams is really useful.
Yeah. Amazing. I mean, these are amazing tips to actually use our sleep and dreams in a way that can help us improve our waking lives. So,
Yes.
thank you so much for enlightening us. And what is the, before I actually close the show, what is the best way our audience can reach out to you?
It depends for it depends for what.
Okay.
And so I mean they can reach out to me on some forms of social media.
Okay.
um, Email can work, but
Okay.
I already get over 50, 60 emails a day, every day
Yeah.
of the year.
Okay.
So that's at times that gets a little overwhelming. And I do
Yeah.
clinical work, I do research,
Yeah.
I teach. So there's
Yeah.
a lot going on.
Yeah.
But if they're interested in learning more about sleep and dreams, as you mentioned, there's a few videos already available on YouTube.
Yeah.
I have a book called When Brains Dream. I've also written a novel
Oh
that
yeah, I just saw that.
blends
Yeah.
dream mythology with some science,
Okay.
but it's a inventive world that's called the
Yeah.
Dream Keepers.
Yeah.
So if people want to sort of get a flavor of these things, there's
Yeah.
multiple sources out there.
Okay, that's great. I've already shared your website link in the comment section, so people who want to know more about your work, they can also check out the website. So thank you so much for sharing these great, knowledge, and that I've been actually waiting for so long. So thank you so much,
Very
and I
good.
hope that our audience must have learned a lot from you from our today's session. So thanks a
Thank you
lot.
very much again for having me.
Yeah, thank you.
All right.